The Buffalo Bills are gearing up for a matchup against a Houston Texans team that has been living a real roller coaster season, the kind that keeps fans hopeful one week and frustrated the next. Houston sits at 5 wins and 5 losses, a record that perfectly mirrors how inconsistent but dangerous they've been. They opened the year stumbling through a slow start, adjusting to a new offensive identity and shuffling pieces all over the roster. But little by little, they steadied themselves, and now they arrive competitively alive, having won back-to-back games, even with their backup quarterback running the show. That alone, tells you a lot about what this coaching staff has built over the last 3 seasons. They took a team that was a mess not long ago and turned it into something tough, something stable, something that refuses to collapse even when things go sideways. And everything points to the Texans rolling into this matchup with Davis Mills once again leading the offense. Their young star quarterback remains in concussion protocol, and unless something changes drastically, the responsibility stays in Mills' hands. He's not the type of player who headlines highlight reels or sparks endless debates on sports shows, but he's a steady presence, a guy who understands the structure of the offense and executes it with discipline. The Texans know exactly what he brings, and that's why they kept renewing his deal with short-term contracts rather than letting him walk. He's experienced enough, with nearly 30 starts under his belt, most of them during seasons in which Houston was far from competitive. Those early years were rough, but they gave him reps, and those reps matter. What he has done recently shows exactly why the staff trusts him. Against Tennessee, he delivered a clean, controlled performance, spreading the ball around and constantly keeping the offense ahead of the sticks. The following week, facing Jacksonville, he played his most assertive game of the year, piling up yards through the air and spearheading a furious fourth-quarter comeback. Not only did he throw multiple touchdown passes late, he even pulled off a rushing score to swing momentum completely. That mix of calm execution and timely aggression is the best version of Davis Mills, and it is the version Buffalo must expect. The numbers aren't gaudy, but they show effectiveness, composure, and an ability to keep an offense functional for 4 quarters. Still, when you dig into the way he plays, a very clear pattern emerges. Mills is extremely dependent on his first read. He steps back, identifies the primary target, and gets rid of the ball quickly. His average time to throw is among the fastest in the league, and because of that, his pressure rate is surprisingly low. The offense is designed to play on schedule, to avoid chaos, and to minimize the need for improvisation. But everything changes the moment the defense forces him beyond the initial read. When Mills has to move to his second or third option, the efficiency collapses. The accuracy dips, the ball placement becomes inconsistent, and the risk of turnover skyrockets. It is not subtle. It is a massive swing in performance, and it's exactly where defenses want to push him. And that is where the Bills must base their defensive approach. For years, Buffalo has thrived by eliminating the quick, easy throws that quarterbacks want. They disguise coverages, rotate late, and make quarterbacks hold the ball an extra beat. Against someone like Mills, that extra beat is everything. That extra hesitation exposes him. If the Bills can muddy those early reads and force him to rescan the field, Houston's offense becomes far less stable. It also ties directly into how vulnerable this offensive line can be. Houston has been tinkering with their protection all year, plugging rookies into major roles and shuffling veterans around to try to create cohesion. The result is a line that has stretches of competence but still shows cracks, especially when the defense creates confusion or pressure through movement. And this is where Buffalo absolutely must capitalize. They need to stress the interior, attack mismatches, send timely pressure, and get creative with stunts and alignments. Houston's line has raw talent at some spots, but lacks the consistency that veteran units bring. Mills handles quick pressure decently because he wants to get the ball out fast anyway. But delayed pressure that comes after his first read, gets taken away. That's where he becomes vulnerable. That's where mistakes happen. That's where the game can tilt. But even forcing Mills into bad spots won't matter if the Bills don't account for the Texans' most dangerous weapon. Nico Collins has transformed himself into one of the league's most explosive vertical threats. Every week, he finds ways to sneak behind safeties, win physically at the catch point, and change the geometry of the field. He's not a household superstar yet, but he plays like someone who can tilt a matchup, and Buffalo hasn't seen many receivers with his specific blend of size, speed, and body control this season. If Collins gets going early, Houston's whole offense opens up. If he's contained, everything becomes harder for them. And it's not just Collins. Houston has young talent growing quickly. Their rookie wideout, Jaden Higgins, is starting to earn more opportunities, showing strong hands, crisp routes, and a physical presence that makes him tough to press. Jalen Null brings burst from the slot, a true yards-after-catch threat who can turn a routine play into a long gain if he gets the ball in space. These young players are not fully developed yet, but their involvement has noticeably increased, giving the Texans more variety and unpredictability. Their tight end Dalton Schultz adds another dimension. He's not flashy, but he's reliable, steady, and smart. He understands leverage, finds soft spots, and becomes a safety blanket for any quarterback who needs a quick outlet. Houston pairs him with a big blocking tight end who helps in the run game, and together they help stabilize an offense that leans on structure and timing. Even the run game, while not fearsome, plays a strategic role. Woody Marks has emerged as the lead back, a player who came into the league with a reputation for catching passes and has grown into a more complete option. Nick Chubb, no longer the powerhouse he once was, still runs with veteran savvy. He reads blocks well, picks up tough yards, and brings stability. They may not scare defenses the way elite backs do, but they can exploit poor gap discipline, especially when combined with motion and misdirection. And motion is a quiet factor that could influence this entire matchup. Houston doesn't lean heavily on pre-snap movement, sitting somewhere in the middle of the league, but when they use it, the efficiency of their offense jumps. They use it to manipulate linebackers, create leverage for the run game, and open windows for quick throws. Meanwhile, Buffalo has struggled defensively against motion this season, especially against runs that attack where the linebackers shift. Teams have recognized that when motion forces Buffalo's backers to adjust, the edges of the defense can be exposed. If Houston decides to lean into that tendency, it could become a real test for the Bills' discipline and communication. Houston's offensive identity becomes even more interesting when you break down how their coordinator blends old concepts with new wrinkles. He came from systems that value creativity when the ball is snapped and precision before it. You can see shades of those influences in the way Houston structures its passing game. They like to stretch the field vertically with layered routes, using Collins as the spearhead. They pair that with tight end leaks, quick outs, and option routes that take advantage of defensive hesitation. And with a quarterback like Davis Mills running the show, they stick to designs that keep him in rhythm. The playbook doesn't call for extended pocket movement or long developing plays unless absolutely necessary. The idea is to get the ball out, stay on schedule, and let the receivers win the leverage battles. Still, even with this structure, Houston can be volatile because their protection is a constant work in progress. Their rookie left tackle has the physical traits every coach dreams of, but he is still learning how to anchor against power and how to maintain balance when speed rushers threaten the outside shoulder. The interior has athletic linemen who move well laterally, but can be overwhelmed by heavy-handed defensive tackles. Their veteran right tackle, despite his size, has always been a high-variance type of player. One series he looks like a wall, the next he gives up a pressure that derails a drive. It's that inconsistency that creates openings for defenses that know how to disrupt timing. And if there is something that Buffalo absolutely must emphasize, it is disruption. They cannot let this offense settle into the early down rhythm it wants. They must force Houston into long second and third downs, situations that demand patience, extended reads, and precise execution from Mills. Those are the situations where Houston's offense becomes vulnerable. When things become predictable, when the ball must stay in the quarterback's hands longer, when protection must hold up for an extra beat, that's when breakdowns happen. And that's where the Bills can take control of the game. Buffalo's challenge, however, is not just tactical. It's also physical. Houston's receivers are big, strong, and aggressive at the catch point. Collins is the obvious headliner, but Higgins and Hutchinson play with a physical maturity beyond their years. They don't shy away from contested catches. They attack the ball in the air, and they use their bodies well to shield defenders. If Buffalo allows them to dictate depth and leverage on intermediate routes, the Texans will generate consistent chunk plays. The Bills need to crowd the release, challenge stems, and force tighter windows. This defense thrives when it makes receivers uncomfortable, and they cannot afford to give free access to a group built to take advantage of space. What makes Houston tricky is that their offense often doesn't need to be explosive to succeed. They operate with patience. They chip away. They string together methodical drives built on 5-yard passes, quick outs, slants, and shallow crossers. They don't mind throwing the ball short if it helps them stay ahead of the chains. In many ways, the passing game functions like an extension of the run game. And while they do not use screens frequently, they also don't put their quarterback in harm's way unnecessarily. They trust their playmakers to win after the catch, even though statistically they haven't generated much in that department this year. What that means for Buffalo is simple. They cannot allow Houston to nickel and dime their way across the field. One missed tackle, one blown coverage, one false step, and suddenly a routine play becomes a momentum swing. Speaking of momentum, Houston is the kind of team that grows into games. They may start slowly, but once they find their footing, they ramp up their aggressiveness. Mills becomes more confident, Collins becomes more involved, Schultz becomes more active underneath. They begin manipulating alignment, pushing tempo, and testing defensive communication. Their offense is at its best when it can build sequence upon sequence, stacking similar concepts, and then hitting the changeup at the right moment. If the Bills let them get comfortable, the Texans will absolutely take advantage of that flow. Buffalo must also consider the psychological element. Houston is a young team, but not a naive one. They've already battled through injuries, offensive rebuilding, and early season inconsistencies. They've won tight games, erased deficits, and shown resilience at moments when previous versions of this franchise would have folded. You can feel that in the way their players carry themselves. They fight with confidence. They believe they belong in every matchup. And with Mills coming off back-to-back wins, there is no underdog mindset here. They will walk into this game expecting to compete, expecting to challenge, expecting to make the Bills work. Buffalo's defensive line must be ready for a fight inside the trenches. Houston will test gap discipline, especially using motion to manipulate second-level defenders. Their coordinator loves to create horizontal stress, making linebackers hesitate just long enough to open creases. That hesitation has been a real issue for Buffalo this season, particularly when motion forces the linebackers to slide, adjust, or rotate coverage responsibilities. Running backs like Woody Marks take advantage of that instinctive microsecond pause. He hits the line quickly and decisively. And even though he's not a dominant downhill force, he's slippery enough to turn small openings into meaningful gains. Chubb brings the veteran element. He waits for blocks to develop, presses the line with patience, and falls forward for tough yards. If the Bills allow that ground game to find rhythm, it will open up much of the play-action structure that Houston loves. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In a move that has sent shockwaves across the NFL, Joe Burrow, the star quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, has reportedly made a statement that has left fans and analysts alike buzzing. Sources close to the situation claim that Burrow did not hold back in his criticism of the Buffalo Bills, a team long considered a powerhouse in the league. While the specifics of his comments remain under wraps, insiders suggest that the remarks were pointed and uncharacteristically blunt for a player known more for his on-field composure than off-field controversies. The NFL community is no stranger to locker room drama and bold statements, but Burrow's recent comments have sparked an unusual level of speculation. Analysts are already debating whether this is a strategic mind game aimed at unsettling the Bills ahead of future matchups, or simply an expression of genuine frustration. Rumors have circulated that the remarks may stem from past encounters where Burrow's Bengals faced the Bills under challenging circumstances, fueling what some insiders describe as a personal edge in his criticism. Fans on social media have reacted with a mix of disbelief and excitement. Some are praising Burrow for his candor, claiming that stars of his caliber are often expected to speak diplomatically, and that his willingness to openly criticize a top team is a refreshing break from the usual PR scripted statements. Others, however, are warning that such comments could intensify rivalries in ways that might not be favorable for his team, potentially painting a target on the Bengals' back in the weeks to come. NFL insiders have noted that comments like these can have ripple effects, influencing everything from team morale to league-wide narratives. Betting forums and fan sites are already abuzz with speculation, and the rumor mill is running at full tilt as everyone tries to anticipate whether this feud, or perceived feud, could escalate into one of the most talked-about storylines of the season. Burrow, known for his competitive spirit and sharp football intellect, has never shied away from speaking his mind in controlled ways, but this latest revelation suggests he may be entering a more controversial phase of his public persona. Whatever the case, one thing is certain. The NFL landscape just got a little more unpredictable, and all eyes are now on the Bengals and the Bills as everyone waits to see if this off-field drama will spill onto the gridiron. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.